This is probably the question that I get asked the most and that Fern gets asked the most. And it's, how do I start a teeth whitening business? It is so confusing. I get it. There's so much false information out there. And especially if you're one of our American listeners, there's a lot more hesitation because, again, of the false information that's out there online. It's actually really crazy. A really large teeth whitening company that's in the dental space actually put out a blog that pretty much listed that you can only do teeth whitening in like 3 states and then everywhere else it's illegal. And I'm like, where did you get this information? Like, and their site source notes are like pretty much them just saying no, but not actually showing examples or like how you would even really show that that's what is real. So it's just crazy. You've heard me talk about it before about right now in this day and age of like, how do you cipher truth from false? If that's blogs, articles, social media, etc. I mean, I know it's so hard. So can you do teeth whitening? What is teeth whitening? If you're going to start a teeth whitening business, is there legal considerations you have to consider? I mean, there's so much to go into. One thing that I am going to say before we dive into this episode is you are not going to be able to just like go to a website and get a yes or no answer. It is all going to be very gray because it's an unregulated act. So since it's unregulated, no, you aren't going to be able to just click something and it's going to give you a step-by-step of what you have to do. You have to be your own advocate. You have to make sure that you're covering your basis for yourself and your potential business. And it's totally doable. And lots do it and are doing such a great job at it. So how do you start a teeth whitening business? Let's find out. Welcome to Whitening Wednesday. I'm Rach, your guide in the teethpreneur industry. Each week, I'll share insider tips, inspiring stories, and practical advice to elevate your business. Tune in and let's make your success shine. Before diving into this week's episode, let's take a moment to thank our sponsor. Friend, are you doing the proper prep steps prior to your chairside bleaching appointments? Ask yourself, if you are not providing an exfoliant prior to placing on your bleaching gels, you are missing a huge step that can cost you your results. Not only are you leaving extrinsic stain behind, but you're limiting the absorption rate that your gel is going to be able to contact the tooth with. So contact Fern today if you are looking for the perfect prep step to expand and explode your chairside service. Stain X exfoliant is the prep step you need before all bleaching appointments and tooth gems. Let's get on with the show. Happy Whitening Wednesday. Today, it's a solo episode, and I'm going to go through the question that I get asked literally all the time, and that is how to start a teeth whitening business. So, where do we even start? First things first, this is going to be geared towards North America, as that's usually the target market that I get the most of. If you are outside of North America, similar here, but you can DM me personally to kind of learn a little bit more about areas outside of North America. But this is for the United States and Canada. So first things first, before we can even talk about like what teeth whitening is or like how to build a business, you actually need to fully understand the scope of teeth whitening. Like, what the heck is teeth whitening? So, teeth whitening, what is it? You're going to hear me click a few things here as I'm just kind of going through our webinar that we usually run a few times a month So if you are really loving this episode and want to hear it like live and ask questions as we go to our webinar page and sign up for the How to Start webinar. But if you are super, super busy and you don't have time to do something live, then pop your earbuds in and I'm going to give you the answers right now. So teeth whitening, there's two different types of teeth whitening. There's chairside teeth whitening and there's take-home teeth whitening. The true difference, chairside is going to be stronger strengths that are going to require protection. So not even just gingival barrier if you're working with the super high strengths, but like retractors as well as lip protection, etc. So chairside is higher percentages that are going to, in return, give you a quicker result. Take home is going to be low and slow approach so that you are going to have to do more contact times, but you can still get results. It's just not as instant because you're not doing as high as percentages. So we have chairside and we have take home. Those are our two different types of ways you can brighten your smile. So there's actually different types of each subsection. So chairside, if you are in Canada, you will be doing provider. If you're in the United States, you should be doing provider, but there's a lot of crazy things on the internet saying that you have to do self-application. So I'm going to talk about self-application. I think it's super silly, but I'm going to talk about it because for whatever reason, the American market likes to do it. So provider, chairside, true difference here. The true difference is a provider is going to be actually applying the gel, putting on a gingival barrier in most cases to protect those gums, and you're doing everything. You're touching the client. And then the self-admin services are going to be lower percentages of gel. So it's like this in between of a little bit stronger than take home, but not strong enough that you need a gingival barrier, so that your patient can actually apply the gel themselves. Why would you want to do that? So there's so much in the American world of if you can or cannot do teeth whitening. And this one thing is in some states, they claim that you can't touch the client or it's performing dentistry scope of practice. I've talked with different legal, you could say legislative formers in different states, and there's pretty much a buy around all of that, especially if you have insurance coverage, etc. So anyway, I'm not going to tell you how to get around that. We can talk about that privately because it's really super easy to do. But if you want to do self-application method, you've been told by other companies that you have to, then all that means is you're going to do absolutely nothing but tell the patient what to do, and the patient's going to do it themselves. And when you're doing this style, you're also going to be most likely doing it in a pen syringe because that's going to be the only way your patient's really going to be able to place on, which means that you're going to have a lot of gel left over. So you're just going to send it home with your patient anyway. And then your patient's going to look at you and be like, well, why did I come see you if I could have just done this at home? So that's why I don't like the self-admin method. And I hope that makes sense. So provider is going to be your stronger gels. You are putting the gel in the teeth. You're putting on gingival barrier. And then self-admin is going to be you are just watching and your patient's doing all the work. Strange. I know. Anyway, those are the two types of like chairside methods. Take-home methods, you have dual trays, which means that it's something like what's behind me if you're watching this, where you can do max and man arches at the exact same time off of the same tray. If they're not custom forms, you can do like boil and bite forms. Those are messy. Then, of course, you can do custom trays that you would have to have done with a dental provider prior. So is there a preference there? It's really going to depend on your business and also your style. Honestly, don't be afraid of dual universal trays. They are great. Plus, remember, you're using low and slow peroxides at home. So your gums are not a huge issue here, okay? As long as you don't overfill your tray, you shouldn't have any issues with irritation spots. You really shouldn't. And if you do, they'll go away pretty quick. From there, you are going to have to understand that take-home products are not your enemy. A lot of different providers who are looking to start up a chairside whitening business think that if they are doing chairside whitening, they should never be promoting or working with retail products. Retail products are honestly a great accelerator for your business and for your results. So first things first, studies show that chairside whitening is only ever the jumpstart technique, regardless of what brand of product you're working with. That means that for the longest retention, your clients need to be doing low and slow at home to get the longest lasting B1 shade. So that means things like take-home whitening pens, take-home kits, trays, etc. Those are so beneficial for not only you to be increasing your revenue and passive income, because those are going to run out a lot quicker than when they need another session, but also for their results. So if you are doing chairside whitening, also make sure you are building out a whitening program. I've seen so many providers do so many fun things like custom take-home goodie bags after, or like retail subscription boxes. Like every quarter they get a new toothbrush, new mouthwash, new whitening agents. Like there's so many fun things you can do. So we've covered what exactly teeth whitening is. You have take-home products and you have chairside products. If you're wanting to start a teeth whitening business, you're going to be focusing around a chairside service and then adding take-home products as extra revenue and profits. So how can you actually start a teeth whitening business with provider standards? Teeth whitening is unregulated, okay? That means that anyone could be buying products off of Amazon, off of Alibaba, the list goes on and on and on and on. And you don't have to have a certificate. You don't have to have a license, and you can set up shop and just start throwing gel on teeth. You totally can. You might get stopped by a public health authority at somewhere along the line if you ever get flagged, but they're really just going to be ensuring that your infection control is proper, and they will look for certificates, but again, you would have to get flagged to really get noticed. So there's a lot of illegal teeth whitening going on. So when I say legally is still in this gray area in the sense of you don't need a license, but to legally be doing teeth whitening, that means that you're holding insurance coverage that's actually going to protect you and your patient for performing this service, and that you've already made it clear to your authority health body that you are practicing teeth whitening. And that is going to ensure that you are checked off as an authorized provider and that your space is safe for your patients to be seeing you. So legally, how do you do teeth whitening? If you are a dental professional, you do not need a certificate. You can get coverage in both those scopes with your diploma, regardless if that's a DA, an RDA, an RDH, a DDS, like regardless, you can get coverage even if you're out of country. And that is great. Would not recommend a certificate unless you've never done chairside whitening, or the only chairside whitening knowledge you have is from sales reps. Because I'm going to be the first to tell you that any whitening company in the market right now that's from like the standard chains that we're used to seeing in the dental industry, they are feeding you BS. So I would get a certificate if you are really not familiar with the differences between like HP, CP, the absorption process. If you weren't aware that the pulp is actually a concern during chairside whitening, get that certificate. If you are unaware of like that teeth whitening actually takes a full 24 hours to break down, get that teeth whitening certificate. At the end of the day, I would recommend a certificate if, honestly, most case scenarios, unless you have been doing teeth whitening for ages and ages and ages and you are just really, really hands-on experienced and you've learned these things over years of experience. So dental professionals don't have to get a teeth whitening certificate, but I would recommend it. Also, if you have both, you are going to get better insurance policy premiums because you're going to be less of a risk for the insurance company. The more knowledge you know, the more safe you're going to be for that insurance company. So, food for thought there. If you are not a dental professional, you have to get a certificate training because you need to prove that you can perform the service to get insured. So, if you are not a dental professional, you need to be ensuring that you are going with the absolute best company. And maybe you're even going to get double or triple certified because you have a lot to learn about the oral cavity and infection control. Infection control intraorally is a whole other ballgame than what you're probably used to. Even if you are a long service beauty or medical provider, it's probably pretty rare that you've ever had to deal with saliva. And if you haven't done that before, honestly, it's quite scary how transmittable there's so many different things in our mouths are going to potentially affect you and your client base. So you have to be on point with your infection control. And that is going to be really important to get done in a training program that you go with. So if you've never watched the YouTube video, Saliva is Red, go find it right now. So you need training if you're a non-dental professional. And then from there, you get your insurance coverage and you get your public health check with your local authority and you are off to the races. So you're probably like, wow, that seems a lot easier than what I thought. I've been told no's. I've been told all these crazy things. Why are you making it sound so easy? And it is because it's easy, okay? The only reason you're being told no is from falsified information that's on the internet. I'm sure someone's going to comment and be like, you're spreading false information, but I'm not. I'm just literally breaking down in simple terms and common sense what's going on. So think of the teeth whitening industry. It's part of the unregulated act industries that are similar to a lot of other cosmetic services like nails, lash extensions, microblading, tattooing, etc. All of these services are provided out of regulatory bodies. So you don't have a license to perform these services and you don't have like anyone looking over your shoulder. You're not paying membership dues, etc. You are literally just providing a service. So that's why it comes into scope of your legislative body, which is your public health. So whenever you're performing an unregulated service, that's why public health is what you could say your quote unquote authority, I guess you could say, because they are the only body that is watching you. And in a lot of areas, let's be honest, public health isn't always watching. They are supposed to be watching you to ensure that you are keeping yourself safe and your clients safe. So they are there to protect public health, safety, and welfare. Any unregulated service is to be watched by public health. Think of even spots like restaurants, etc. Infection control is insane for restaurants. Like you can't be giving a new glass to a new citizen without it going through proper infection control policies. So something just like as crucial as that in food safety, same thing. Public health is watching that unregulatory body. So what is the issue here? What is the issue? Why is teeth whitening such a confusing service to offer? It's because it borders onto another industry, okay? Think of tattooing. Tattooing does not have a bordering industry. Tattooing is its own industry. There's not a provider that is a scope practice that would cover tattooing, right? So teeth whitening is so interesting because obviously it would make sense that teeth whitening is done by the dental market, right? The dental markets, all things intraoral and whitening teeth should be part of that market. But what has happened is that the teeth whitening market was holding the space through the dental industry for so long that it got just outrageous. So since there was no competition, the dental offices were able to upcharge $800, $1,000 per patient for teeth whitening. And the reason why they were charging these fees was because the products that they're purchasing are really expensive. So it wasn't just them jacking up their prices. It was also because the industry, like the industry leaders for those supplies, they knew they had the market. So they were charging premium prices for it. So it was a domino effect. So really the bad guy here is the suppliers. And it's just market trend. So they had a hold on the market and they were charging a lot for their products. So the dentist had to charge a lot for the service. And what started happening was some markets, some suppliers started selling outside of the dental industry, and they had to reduce their fees because they knew that, let's say, a beauty supplier wouldn't be able to charge the same fee as a dentist. So the market started to shift a bit because now these suppliers, these beauty providers, were able to get their hands on whitening supplies. And the dental market did not like that. They did not like that at all, because why would an industry like that you're impeaching on their client base, right? So why would a dental market want that to happen? And that's why there's some gray areas, more so in the States, of dental boards claiming that they will potentially take legal action against you because you're impinging on their market. They're going to say that you need a dentist present, or that you're removing stain and that's the form of dentistry, etc. But that's why it gets so confusing and a lot of false information gets out there. So at the end of the day, think to yourself, if I am in a southern state in the United States and I start doing teeth whitening, what's worst case scenario that can happen? Worst case scenario is that I'm going to get sued, right? I mean, knock on wood, hopefully that wouldn't happen, but let's say it were to happen. You need to ensure that you have your insurance coverage and also that you have your business set up correctly. And from there, that's when you have to ensure that you are following your insurance guidelines. And your insurance guidelines are going to be for cosmetic teeth whitening. So cosmetic teeth whitening is going to be under 25% HP equivalent, and it's going to be non-fluorinated products. So that is what's going to keep you onto the cosmetic side versus the dental side. What you'll also find is that dental grade gels, quote unquote, are just coming from suppliers that are dealing with the dental market, and they're going to have placed all over their supplies dental professional use only. So that means that you have to ensure that you're working with products that are actually meeting your insurance guidelines. Because if you're working with those higher percentages, yes, I know there's a lot of companies out there that are going to sell you really high percentages and tell you it's fine, but you're not covered for it. So make sure that you are doing it legitimately and safely. And then if you, again, are, say, in one of those southern states, there's like, no, you can't do this, I'm going to sue you, then that's why the self-admin method is in there. Because if you just don't want the headache of having to explain this to people all the time, then just get your patients to do it themselves. Those are your options. So how do you actually start? You need to figure out your business model, do a business plan. That's the biggest thing. Figure out your budget. Do not start a business without an advertising budget, because how are you going to make money if you don't have patients or clients? So you need to make sure you understand advertising and how much advertising is going to cost. And then from there, you're going to figure out your insurance, what you can get covered for. Different areas might have different gel percentage restrictions. Usually 25% is the golden standard, but maybe you're getting lower for whatever reason. You're going to need to figure out what your public health checklist is. Usually it's just following what other personal care service providers have to follow. And then, of course, then doubling down on what infection control, like a dental office, is like, because you are working intraorally, right? So that's huge. One-use disposables are also super important. Absolutely. One of my biggest pet peeves is always getting asked, like, can I cold soak my retractors? Yeah, if you want to, you can. If that's your licensing body, shouldn't say licensing body, if that's like what your public health authority is saying that you can do in your area, then go for it. But I wouldn't be doing it. Retractors range anywhere from $1 to $9. In the grand scheme of everything, that is pennies to what you're actually making. Just buy new retractors. Plus, if you are cold soaking or sterilizing, your insurance policy is going to be higher because, again, you're at more of a risk of cross-contamination. So just use one-use disposables. Then from there, you need to find a company to work with. And this is where it gets really frustrating because social media is going to make it look like there's a lot of great options out there. I'm going to be super truthful. There's like barely any great options out there that's actually teaching you the fundamentals of not only how to do a chairside session, but the full theory background, truthful theory backgrounds. There's a lot of false information out there. So do your due diligence. I was going to say read reviews, but we know a lot of reviews are just skewed anyway. So I would actually talk to providers. So if you're following different companies on social media, I would actually reach out to providers that you see that have tagged the company or that likes a lot of the company's stuff. Just say hey, I would love to ask you a question. I see that you might be working with this company. I'm thinking about working with them. What's your response been like? What are your results like? And also, what's the customer service like? Get the scoop. Have a real conversation. I would choose 3 to 5 people and just kind of feel it out. But then on the flip side, actually talk to the company. Okay. So if that's via email, text, call, do it. I know in 2024, we don't like having real conversations, but having real conversations also should help you kind of narrow out if the company is legit or not. So make sure if you're getting the training and you are finding a system to work with, you're going to be making an investment. So make sure that you're putting that hard-earned money into a legitimate investment, okay? That's my tip there. Now, from that standpoint, once you are ready to rock with getting set up, usually the next question is well, how much can I make? What are my profit margins like? That's all going to depend on what systems you decide to go with. You can go with systems that are going to take you 90 minutes plus, or you can go with systems that are going to take you 45 minutes. And that's going to depend on, of course, cutting into your profit margins, right? And also your cost per patient is going to change depending on what system you go with, what style you go with. So usually we say industry average, you're going to pay anywhere from $30 to $90 per patient. And let me just point out that higher end number is going to be if you're adding on take home kits, etc. And then you're usually upcharging anywhere from $199 all the way up to $320. So those are great numbers, great margins. And that's going to be more specific though to your specific setup. So I hope that little roadmap really helps you break down, can I do teeth whitening? Can I start a business? And, how do I do this? So your next question is probably, if you are a dental assistant or a dental hygienist listening to this pod, you're probably but my association has told me no, or, I'm only a dental assistant. I've been told that I can't do this, blah, 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 blah. First things first, if you're just trying to figure out if you can do teeth whitening in the dental office, absolutely. dental assistants, you're under the dentist anyway. You can do whatever the heck you want. Just, you're under him or her, whoever your assistant or whoever your dentist is, you're under them. If they are comfortable with you applying teeth whitening gel, then do it. If they're not in the office, like they want you to do whitening days alone, just stay under 25% to have that cosmetic insurance coverage and you're good to go. Can you do it outside of the office? Absolutely. Think of this. When you are providing cosmetic teeth whitening, you're stepping out of the dental realm and you're going into that personal care space realm. So you're now a beauty provider, and that has nothing to do with your dental association. So yes, you can do the service. Yes, your skills are going to make you amazing at this service, and you can grow great either additional income or full income with a successful teeth whitening business. That being said, please DM me any questions that you have. I hope this roundup was a great insight on how to start your business, and take me along your business journey. I love to see it. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Whitening Wednesday.